If anything, he kind of gaslit us from the beginning. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you freaking kidding me right now?
Maybe I am angry inside. I've been through stuff, so I'm angry.
Yes, but it's not, this is not, be quiet, Tiffany. Be quiet!
That's what is
I'm
wrong
not
with
trying
you.
to,
But you're not.
stop it! I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley, and today I just finished You season 4 completely, and I got a lot to say. I have a lot to talk about. So overall general consensus, I kind of liked the season, but unexpectedly. You as a show I've always liked from season 1, like straight from the beginning. First when I saw the trailers, I was like, it's giving like high society. It felt like it was a different show. Like it felt like it had a different producer and everything. So that's why when I saw the trailer, I wasn't expecting too much from it, right? I'm starting watching it. In the beginning, it's kind of lacking a bit. When I started season 4, it wasn't really gripping me that way. The main thing I thought was the weakest area of this season was the characters. You is pretty formulaic, where Joe's friend group, or whoever he surrounds himself with, they're all on the outside, snobs and just people who Joe kind of looks down on. Eventually throughout the show, they have a little bit more layers, they're a bit more complex. There's more to them that makes them a bit more redeemable in a way. In season 1, there was like Peaches, a toxic best friend, which she was, but like secretly she was like in love with Beck. Season 2, you had Love and her brother and her family, and that was, you know, complex enough, and especially Love as a character. Season 3, you had the suburban neighbors. That one, I adored season 3. The neighbors, they looked perfect on the outside, but they all had their stuff going on, and it's just like the show made them more human characters. And so in season 4, the characters, almost all of them, other than the main girl, what was her name? Other than Kate, the rest of the friend group, it felt comical. They did not feel like real people. And like, I understand that's what they were going for, like the extremely elite, high society, British aristocracy type of people. I'm still fine with making them literally caricatures. But when I was watching the show, I was like waiting for, okay, when are they gonna develop these side characters? When are they gonna evolve a little bit? At least like a couple, but no. 1 out of 10 stars. Boring, lazy, sloppy. Like it was not. Like, what is this? And also I feel like there was just a lot of unneeded characters. There's a lot of side characters that I felt like didn't need to be there because they didn't add anything. They're all the same person essentially, just have different crimes in their back pocket, but they're all the same person. So that was one weak point I kind of had with the show. Another one, I wouldn't necessarily call this a weak point, I think it's just a personal preference, was the movie mystery aspect, like classic mystery murder, Sherlock Holmes type, whatever you want to call it. When I started watching, I was like, oh my gosh, so Joe was really like, so this is just him gonna be him trying to figure out who's murdering these people, who's the Eat the Rich killer. And don't even get me started on, I'll save that for in a minute, but like Joe's just gonna go out throughout this whole season solving the murder and protecting his friends, and it's like, it wasn't really compelling. Now that we got that out of the way, one more side little note, I will say the overarching commentary of the season, absurdly wealthy people being able to do what they want when they want, get away with whatever they want, basically like no morals to be seen anywhere. There was no like another layer of commentary. It was just like, oh yeah, these are what people do. I don't know, I feel like the writers could have done something more. When it gets to around episode 6, 7 through 10, that is the show. That is the show I signed up for. That is the show I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm gonna spoil it right now. The whole show, we're watching Joe move to London, live his life as a little professor, right? And I'm just like, okay. He's like, I'm gonna be different. No more girls, no more stalking, no more love. I'm like, okay, I can get into this, right? And then the murder started happening. Joe is essentially kind of being framed for the murder. Now, call me naive, but I was following along. I was like, oh my gosh, who knows Joe's secret? Who's trying to set him up? I was in defense of Joe. I was on Team Joe. And I said, Joe, you can do this.
We did it, Joe.
Joe, someone is pinning this on you, and you better get to the bottom of this right now, because no one's gonna ruin your holiday. That's what I was thinking, right? And eventually, the dude named Reese, he's the one that's blackmailing Joe. He's like, I know your name is Joe, not Jonathan. Push comes to shove. Joe eventually kills Reese because, I mean, I felt like that was gonna happen eventually, right? It turns out Reese does not know Joe because Joe curated this man and this fictional relationship in his head. The biggest, like, I did not see this plot twist coming from a mile away. Joe's been on just a psychotic episode since episode 1. Are you kidding me? He was suffering from erotomania disorder. I screamed because when Reese died, right, he strangled him to death, right? And then Reese came from the corner. My first thought, call me silly, I was like, oh, he has a twin. But that wouldn't make sense if he had a twin, because Joe would know if Reese had a twin. So I'm like, what's going on? I was so freaking confused. And then we get the flashbacks. The glorious flashback. Joe stalked Marianne from like the beginning, like straight after season 3, right? When he stalked Marianne, it turns out he did not let her go. He didn't let her go happily on the train. He drugged her and took her. That was the moment, and I was like, Joe, I am so disappointed in you. I don't know how this happens every single time. If anything, he kind of gaslit us from the beginning. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you freaking kidding me right now? So anyways, oh, I love the flashbacks so much because I love, who's her name? Gabrielle. Tati Gabrielle, yes. Oh, I love her performances. Ooh, she is so good. I love her as an actress. Because what the worst part was, because when his little student was trying to pin something on Joe, she found the key. She found the abandoned building. She found the cage. And when I saw the cage, I said, Joe. No, actually, I'm lying. When I saw the cage, and this is how you know I was really believing in Joe. When I saw the cage, I said, who set that up? I said that could not have been Joe, because Joe's been living his life in London trying to clear his name. Watching this back is so embarrassing because I was really so delusional. And now, like, in retrospect, I'm like, how could I have been so stupid? Why would I think ever that Joe would actually be different? But I know that's what the writers wanted me to think, and I fell right for their freaking trap. I saw the cage, I said, oh my gosh, Joe, please don't tell me what I think it is right now. And it was what I thought it was. So basically, from the beginning, he was living a double life, essentially. And this is the only part I'm actually really confused on. He was watching Reese's, like, podcast and reading everything about him, right? I assumed that was the moment when, like, you know, in the other seasons, Joe's like, hello, you. I need to know who you are. That was the moment he was doing that with the man. And I actually love this concept this season, him being obsessed with the man, because it's like, so it would make sense. Like, why wouldn't someone like Joe be obsessed with this guy who's seemingly, you know, a pretty decent person, someone who Joe, he said he admires him or is inspired by him. Obsession is obsession. It doesn't have to be, you know, romantic love or whatever. Obsession is obsession. Because the information was withheld from the audience, I was really believing him, because I'm like, wow, no stalking, no obsessing, no hidden box filled with like stolen underwear and used tampons. Joe, you're really becoming a better person. Like, that's what I could have sworn. Another reason I wasn't fully believing that it could be Joe, like, I didn't have the thought that it could be Joe somehow, because I'm like, there's no box, because Joe always has a box. If there's no box, we're in the clear. And then his student found his box. Box had Reese's used napkins, sweaty gym towel, toenail clippings. Joe. The part I was a little bit confused about was when Marianne was like, Joe, please let me out. Like, I gotta see my daughter. I gotta go home. Please let me out, Joe. And he was like, I'm not Joe. Like, I'm not Joe Goldberg. And he hit his head. And I was like, Joe, calm down for a second. So I'm wondering, was that the point where he like broke, like he split off? Another thing that I kind of felt really eerie about this season. Typically, yes, he's obsessive and stalker and like he should be in jail, right? But overall, he has the ability to care is what I'm trying to say. But this season, when he like kidnapped Marianne and like had the freaking switch go off on his head, he seemed sadistic. And I think that is what the overall commentary this season was supposed to be about. Not about the friend group, but it was supposed to be about Joe and Joe only. And I love that. And like this makes up for, you know, the beginning episodes being kind of slow and like dragging on a bit, because this is, oh, I loved it. It was I can't explain it. I just loved it so much. It felt sadistic in a way. And even when he finally came to his senses and he found out that Reese was not a man, but it was just the darkest version of himself personified as Reese, he was like, no, this is not me. I don't do that anymore. Like, I'm different. I'm like, okay, Joe, heard that before. The thing that made it feel different this time was Kate. And I think the overall surrounding environment of a high society London. Kate, I didn't really care about her, to be honest. I feel like she's our weakest love interest overall. She came from so much freaking money and like knows how to clean up situations in X, Y, and Z. And so when she and Joe had a real heart-to-heart confession, like, this is how I knew she was a little messed up, when Joe's like, I've murdered people. And she just completely like talked over the subject as if Joe didn't just say that. Anyways, they had their little heart-to-heart, and she was all like, we can be good together. Like, I'll help you be good and you help me be good. Like, we hold each other accountable type stuff. It's almost like enabling him, except she has so much resources, he can quite literally do whatever he wants to. And that's the scariest part. But while I say all this, while I'm like, okay, Joe, this is kind of scary, because this is like one of the, not the first times, but like the first real time in the show where I'm like, okay, Joe, I don't think it could go up from here. Like, he's actually really scary this time around. And the only reason he's really scary this time around is because he has this girl, Kate, like wrapped around his finger, ready to erase all crimes that he has caused. And that's the scariest part, because before, Joe would be like, oh my gosh, like, I have to be a little bit careful because, you know, the police can catch me or whatever. But this time, like, they erased his internet history. Like, he's now Joe Goldberg. He no more aliases. I don't think mentally he has healed at all. I don't think, even though he threw his dark persona over the bridge, I don't think that obviously hasn't changed. Now I think it just evolved into a new persona. The Joe that we know and love and sometimes hate would realize, like, he would see through the role he's playing. Like, it's so hypocritical. Like, yeah, we all know Joe is an unreliable character, kind of sits on his high horse. He literally became the type of person that he demonizes, and it's like, Joe, I know we don't hold you to a very high standard, but you're better than this. Like, I don't know how else to say it. The last 4 episodes really just make up for the weaker introduction to the season. I don't care. It was so freaking entertaining. What else? Marianne, love her. I love the master plan too. I actually love that she got away. I feel like the show may be coming to an end. Maybe season 5, season 6. When it does, maybe Marianne might be the one to, you know, get rid of Joe. At the end of the day, Joe's still my guy. And I'm not gonna stand beside him, but I'm gonna be around the corner. I'm gonna be around the corner just watching from afar. The plot twist was way better than I could have guessed. So I love that the person who was blackmailing Joe was Joe, because it's such a Joe thing to do. And that's why I like it. It's just so, it's so Joe, and it's just so right. I think that's about it. All my thoughts I have on You season 4. If you liked it, go ahead and subscribe. And if you really liked it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And yeah, that is it. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Joe, we was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.